Welcome to our 5 on 5. Please be joined today by Stacey McLaughlin, a Douglas County property owner, and Hannah Sohl from Rogue Climate. Ladies, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
So a couple weeks ago, we had a spokesperson here from Pembina. It's the Canadian company behind the Jordan Cove project and the Pacific Connector Pipeline. We wanted to give the alternative view equal time. So Hannah, I guess start with you. There's a lot going on in the process, as people can clearly see. Federal, state, kind of where do we stand with this process of this pipeline going through Southern Oregon to Coos Bay? Yeah,
so communities in Southern Oregon have been fighting this project for over 10 years. Pembina is a Canadian fossil fuel corporation that's proposed to build a 230-mile pipeline across Southern Oregon that would impact close to 500 rivers and streams, become the largest source of climate pollution in the state of Oregon, and threatens landowners like Stacey with eminent domain. So where we are right now is that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission just released a draft environmental impact statement, which you can see here on the table. That's a list of the environmental impacts of this project. In 2016, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, after the DEIS came out, actually denied permits for this project. So this draft environmental impact statement is in no way a green light for the company. They still have many, many federal, state, and local regulatory hurdles to get over.
Okay, and one, I understand, Stacey, one of the issues many landowners or many people in general have with a project is eminent domain. You're a property owner. Did Pembina or the company before them, I suppose, come to you and ask to use your property?
What they do is they send you a letter and they say, we'd like to come onto your property, we'd like to survey it. They don't necessarily tell you everything about it. We have received several offers that are requesting an easement on our land. We've said no, we are not interested. We have 357 acres. They want to come through a mile of our land. And the project as it stands right now is just too devastating. The risks are too great. The possibilities around explosions and the harm and impact to our land is not something that we're willing to settle. We've actually been living under the threat of this project for closer to 15 years in our communities, and it's not something that we're willing to participate in. So eminent domain is actually a very, very real threat for many of the landowners in Oregon, in Southern Oregon, that are impacted by the project. They have only about 55% landowners have signed easements. Many of those were signed prior to Pembina's ownership, and it was when the project was domestic. And my neighbors at that time felt that it was important for energy independence. That's no longer on the table. This is totally an export project, bringing Canadian gas through the United States for export to Asia. The environmental impacts, as you can see, are significant. This is a 10-volume, double-sided, 8.5 by 11 document that we have 90 days to review.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here talking about the Pacific Connector Pipeline and the Jordan Cove LNG project. We're here with Stacey McLaughlin, a Douglas County property owner, and Hannah Sohl from Rogue Climate. Hannah, one of your organization's biggest concerns, I believe, is what it will do to Oregon's water, the project and the pipeline from Coos Bay to rivers and streams throughout Southern Oregon. What are your specific concerns with those?
Yeah, so close to 500 rivers and streams would be impacted by this project. So we're worried about reduction in shade. We're worried about impacts to over 100,000 Southern Oregon's drinking water. We're worried about the impacts that this project could have on existing industries in fishing and clamming throughout Southern Oregon.
Okay, and Stacey, you're one of the property owners in Douglas County. You were telling me during the break that you won a lawsuit, or your group, if you will, won a lawsuit against Pembina regarding the pipeline coming through Douglas County. So you're saying the project is in effect on hold because of that?
I'd like to use the term done for as a result of that. You have to have the pipeline connect to something, and as a result of our lawsuit and the victory that we had, there is essentially no project at this time because they need to connect it to the Jordan Cove LNG energy facility proposed in Coos Bay, and they can't.
Okay, and so what is the big, aside from that and the changes that you guys won your lawsuit on, what is the big concern for you regarding the pipe coming through your property?
The concern for me is safety, as well as the loss of my private property rights, my ability to say no. I'm not willing, as an Oregon landowner, to be the person to facilitate profits for Canadian corporation. As it is now, Southern Oregon will not benefit from this project except in a temporary way, which is not what we need. Taking into account some of the jobs that they're promising, the sustainable energy sector job market is increasing at a much faster rate than anything affiliated with fossil fuels. This is a fossil fuel project. Tying our economy to that is just irresponsible and not something I'm willing to participate in. And we're concerned about the loss of our domestic water at our home. This will impact our water supply as well as create a dangerous situation for us. Pipelines may not spill, but they do leak and they do explode. And there are numerous instances every day of explosions throughout the United States and the world with relation to natural gas pipelines.
Hannah, we have talked about the governmental side of this, whether it's at the state or federal level, and we have obviously a large amount of documentation to go into that. There was the Department of State Lands public hearings, a lot of public comment, a lot of people. We were at the Jackson County and Klamath County ones, people seemingly overwhelmingly against the project. Does that matter?
Yes, I think what matters with this project, public comment really does have an impact on whether or not this project goes through.
Because those are the agencies that approve it. I just didn't,
Yes, yeah.
Beyond, forgive me for being flippant. Of course it matters, but does it matter to the decision makers? Yeah,
so just a couple of weeks ago, the Department of State Lands sent a response to Jordan Cove because they had read the 50,000 public comments that Oregonians had submitted to our state agencies asking them to deny this project because it threatens our waterways, it threatens our safety, it poses a new huge risk of wildfires in our region. And so the Department of State Lands actually responded to all of those comments and has submitted a request to Jordan Cove for a lot more information because they did not provide adequate information. So Jordan Cove has about a month to respond to Jordan Cove or to the Department of State Lands questions that are based on the public comments that came from thousands and thousands of Southern Oregonians. So it does make a big impact. And in the next couple of months, we're in another really important federal comment period. And so there'll be workshops throughout Southern Oregon to help folks in Southern Oregon write comments to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And you can get more information on the Road Climate website about when those workshops will be. And then in June, we're going to have another set of hearings, and it'll be really important for Southern Oregonians to show up to those hearings and make their voices heard. That we do not want this project. We want a faster transition to cleaner energy, and this project is a huge step in the wrong direction for our communities.
Okay, a lot to talk about. A lot more. Clearly, the project's far from done. It's been a long time, as you talked about. Thank you both so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.